That they will be arriving shortly, but we are a little bit behind already, so I'll call the meeting to order. Member Clerk.
Mr. Chair, before we go any further, it would be appropriate at this time to move the appointment of Mr. Graham as the acting CEO.
Thank you. May I have a seconder? James? And members, just a context, the members, Sandy Nunziata and myself as vice chair, made that appointment under our authority under the procedural bylaws, but we have asked the board to confirm that appointment. Peter has accepted the position, and I think all matters are in place, but we do want to have this confirming motion from the board. So we have a mover and seconder to the motion. James? Well, I think we have Tony. Member Quirk has moved. James Gasper sets in second. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. And we'll speak a little bit further to that later in the meeting, members, but it's good to have that established right at the beginning. And Peter, welcome. Congratulations, and we look forward to your service. Thank you. Members, just before we continue, I wanted to remind the members of the board and staff and guests and members of the public that the full authority board meeting is live streamed on our website and will be archived along with the official written minutes of the meeting. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority and or the NPCA board of directors. And note that the archived recorded meeting is available on the NPCA website. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of the meeting. The official record of any authority board meeting is and shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the full authority board. So just for context, we are leading the process in terms of this measure of openness and accountability and by live streaming. Hopefully the rest of the conservation authorities will adopt this model, because we do feel it's a way of providing access to the public when we have our meetings in the daytime, and many of the public aren't able to leave their jobs to see it. So they can view it online, or they can see the recording from the website anytime following the meeting. So with that, members, I'd ask if there's any declarations of conflict of interest on any matters on the agenda this morning. Have you seen none? Noted. I'll ask for a resolution to adopt the agenda of the full authority meeting as presented. And if this is the time, if there's any changes in the agenda you would like to see, this would be the time to offer that. The mover and a seconder for the agenda, Rob, Member Sherman, and Member Beatty.
I'm glad.
Please.
Any discussion in closed session, I may have a motion concerning staffing.
Okay. So we would add that to the discussion in closed session. Thank you. So that is noted as an item for the agenda, the agenda of the closed session. All right, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. So on the agenda, first item is our delegation, a presentation by Mr. David Hemmings in pursuit of World Heritage Designation, Niagara-on-the-Lake UNESCO Committee. You have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, gentlemen and lady. Appreciate your time for this. Niagara-on-the-Lake has established a UNESCO committee to look at the possibility of a World Heritage Site designation application. We have a fairly short period of time in which to get this designation in. My name is David Hemmings, as I say. I'm an author and a historian. I also am on the Municipal Heritage Committee of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and I'm on the UNESCO Committee. The UNESCO Committee's mandate is to identify and research cultural heritage resources and historical themes related to the municipality that could be considered of outstanding universal value according to the criteria of the World Heritage Committee. It is also to organize and create a submission to Parks Canada in Ottawa for consideration for UNESCO's tentative list. So let's be clear, this is a 10-year process at least. The tentative list is simply the first hurdle that we must overcome in order to get further consideration. I'm sure there will be a number of applications that will come in, and over the next year, UNESCO in Canada, in Ottawa, will make judgment about which ones they want to take forward. We're here today because we'd like to request a letter of support in principle, and at this stage it can only be in principle, and with considerable further discussion, I'm sure, over the next period of time, which could be as long as 10 years. So as I mentioned earlier, the tentative list is the first step that we are submitting for, and then the country will take these nominations forward to UNESCO in Paris as those that are on their tentative list. By the way, the last time this opportunity arose, that is for new applications to be put on the tentative list, was 14 years ago. The reason we are doing it now is because next year is the 150th anniversary of Canada, and they've decided to include this in the 150-year process. The themes that we have chosen are strictly cultural, because we're talking about outstanding universal value, and we're focused on a time between about 10,000 BC and 1871. We believe that Niagara-on-the-Lake was a natural crossroads, both geography, boundaries, and its history and heritage, and that it has been a place where people have sought peace and refuge. The indigenous peoples, the European emigres, the loyalists, the freedom seekers fleeing slavery through the Underground Railroad, and other vulnerable free black people, the Confederates after the Civil War, and right up to the beginning of time when Camp Niagara was put in place in 1871. So that's the sort of period and the theme that we have for this submission. It is a cultural submission. It is not a natural submission, and the reason there is an opportunity is because we in Niagara-on-the-Lake are a boundary with east-west crossroads between the eastern part of North America and the western part, which at that time was largely to be discovered in some cases. The study area therefore runs all the way from the north end of the Adambeck Power Station, so at the gorge of Niagara River, right up the parkway, the eastern side of the parkway, all the way up to the Commons, the Paradise Grove Commons, Fort George, what is today the golf course at Niagara-on-the-Lake, and the lands that Parks Canada will own north of the Lakeshore Road out to 4 Mile Creek. We would like to include the piece that Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority has at 2 Mile Creek. It is contiguous on the north side with Parks Canada's property, and on the south side with Butler's farmhouse land, which is conserved by the town, and Niagara's and Butler's burial ground. Impact on private property, I think, is an important question to respond to. The World Heritage designation falls on the presumption that the management plans for the properties that we are proposing already exist. That is to say, the official plan of the town, the management plan for NPCA, the management plan for Parks Canada and Niagara Parks Commission. So they're not trying to create another level of management planning on top of what already exists. There is therefore no change to the way in which management will take place. That is an absolute requirement, by the way, of UNESCO. So there will also be some private properties that are excluded from the area that we're showing because 65 of them, there's no reason to include them. It doesn't change the story that we're presenting for Niagara and the Lake cultural landscape. And we believe that this unique cultural landscape is unparalleled in its natural and historic environment, and it has always been a haven for people. Individual private properties, other than the larger pieces that are owned by those that we've just talked about, do not therefore have to be included. And what's more, the property does not have to be contiguous. So you can actually have pieces of the property on your map if we believe that's the way to go. And that, by the way, will be determined over the next 10 years. So there's still yet to be a significant amount of discussion to be held with all parties over this period of time. We're required to submit by the 27th of January 2017. That means that we need permission from the Town Council of Niagara Lake to proceed in December of this year. And prior to that, of course, we have to submit the materials to the town for their review. So I hope that gives you a summary of what we're doing, and I'm sure there are going to be some questions, and perhaps the time is best spent by answering those questions. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hemmings. Do we have some questions from members? Mayor Dart, and then Member Sherp. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Niagara Lake Council has been supportive of the UNESCO Lake, and we're firmly behind it. I just want to comment, it's made up of a great community of our local residents. So if you look at the list, and if you knew anyone on it, you'd be impressed.
Thank you. Member Sherp, and then Nikki after Member Sherp.
Yeah, next question. Quick question, and maybe it's obvious to many here, but what do you see as the benefits if you get this designation?
It's an award. Let's be clear about it. It also extends the, I think, extraordinary status that Niagara Lake has in terms of its preservation, conservation, in terms of its historic heritage value, And so the primary benefit is to enhance the preservation and conservation of Niagara on the Lake. Secondarily, of course, tourists will also be aware of this designation.
Thank you. Member Patricia, and then Member Beatty. Go ahead, Mayor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
My question is, on this heritage, the Niagara Lake, the Commons, and the former National Defense training areas, are they included in this?
Yes, they are both included, all included in this area.
Okay.
Parks Canada is also on the committee and has supported that.
Thank you. Then Member Beatty and Member B.
Thank you. Mine was somewhat similar. I know that the National Committee has actively been pursuing potential acquisition of the Parks Canada for many years. Would the UNESCO designation support or perhaps restrict using that area for other purposes? Parkland, open access to the Lake Ontario, etc.
There will be no restriction for sure, but there will be an enhancement.
Okay, thank you. And I take it by your map that it does include the urban area from Niagara Lake. It's basically shoreline.
It doesn't include,
The urban area.
it does not include the urban area, that's right, the private properties on the waterfront, for example.
Okay, and lastly, the area in Queenston, approximately looks like it is.
Sorry, I meant the home properties,
Yes.
not the private properties.
The area that's Queenston, Broadway, etc. is already under UNESCO designation through the Escarpment Commission. Is it possible to have dual designation? One, natural feature, second, culture.
There is a difference between the World Heritage designation and the Biosphere designation that's currently applied to above the escarpment. Those are two different functions that are within the UNESCO organization.
Okay, thank you for that. And lastly, are you planning to make a similar submission to the Escarpment Commission?
Yes, we are.
I'll give you my card for contact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member B.
My question was answered, thank you.
Thank you. And board members, Mr. Henning's request from the, so it's the Niagara on the Lake UNESCO Committee making the request of the board for support in principle regarding the lands that we have jurisdiction over. I see Member Mayor Delegates, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Chair. My only question was, in regard to development, how does this, although I think UNESCO is a great idea, I'd also like to know, in terms of future development, how has this been looked at on how it may impact or hinder development? Because I'm assuming that once it's got the designation, that might be one of the factors in the report. So I'm just curious to know the take from that perspective, Mr. Chair.
We are, this is a cultural submission. The story here, if let's say an additional house were built, for example, in the area, that shouldn't change the story at all. So even if we were to reduce the property by an acre or something like that, that wouldn't change the designation of the package. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. I just wanted to make sure that sometimes things you don't see the long-term effect until it becomes relevant, and sometimes it isn't until something comes forward and you say, well, it's one more filter that things have to pass through, which I think is okay, as long as it doesn't neutralize any opportunities for the town. That's all my only concern.
Well, I think everybody has management plans, and the town has the official plan for itself, and those are largely adhered to, and I'm sure that such documents as your September 2015 document will be adhered to as long as this committee agrees to it. this board. So I assume that over time there will maybe some changes to the property, but I don't think that will change the outstanding universal value criteria that we've identified.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple other questions, and Mayor Dart has expressed his interest in moving or putting a motion on the floor, but I'll entertain Member Annunziata and Mayor Maloney.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative. Thank you for your presentation. I apologize that I caught the last 15 minutes of it. I'm sure the first 15 minutes of it was just as entertaining.
Sandy, could you,
Sorry.
pull the mic a little closer?
Yeah. A couple of questions with respect to the designation. Now, we crossed this path probably about a year ago with respect to the Ramsar designation, and I understood that we were getting a little pushback, and Mayor Dart would probably, Lord Mayor Dart would probably shed some light on why we were getting some kind of pushback with respect to a Ramsar designation along the Niagara River corridor. Have you had any discussions, or are you familiar with the process that basically we've been pursuing with Ramsar designation?
I'm very much familiar with that, and I think it's best answered by the Lord Mayor as to how we're proceeding with studying that issue further.
Thank you for that. I think, I'm not exactly sure why it was more of a residential agricultural pushback than anything. And they don't seem to be having an issue with the UNESCO designation. So, and then again, I've talked to our chair here about the pushback on it, and we're working towards it, but I honestly don't have a real great answer for that.
Okay. Just to follow up on that then, was any of the so-called pushback not to follow the same suit as the town of Fort Erie and the city of Niagara Falls with respect to having those three communities that have access to the Niagara River? Did it have anything to do with the agricultural community, and have the agricultural community been thoroughly advised and kept in the loop as far as what the designation could mean, what the designation really means, and how it would impact anything that they want to do further from an agricultural perspective?
Yes, the agricultural community in Niagara-on-the-Lake is aware of this, although I must admit we're talking about an area which runs on the east side of River Road or the Parkway, and there's relatively little agriculture on that side of the road. It's all on the west side of the road.
I just want to make sure that we certainly engage those partners. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mayor Dart can return to that subject. We're
Yeah, I
speaking
think
in this town, so.
I think the agricultural, they use the river for irrigation too. And so they were concerned that there may be some hindrances to access for irrigation. So that was a little bit of the part of the Ramsar. I think most of it is just an understanding or lack of information. Thank you.
Member Maloney, and then Member Joyner.
Building on Mr. Diodati's questioning, are there any restricted items of this designation would have on lands owned by the NPCA?
No, there are no restrictions. You're simply asked to maintain the management plan that you currently have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Joyner.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Being the chair of the Niagara Region Culture Committee, and there are members sitting around this horseshoe as well who sit on the Culture Committee, Councilor Annunziata, I can't say that, but I was just wondering, would you be coming to the Culture Committee at the Niagara Region to make a presentation too as well? It would be something that we would consider potentially maybe also addressing and making or presenting a letter to the government of Canada as well.
We would be happy to, and I'll leave you a card so that you can communicate with me and we'll set up a meeting.
And if I could, if you have a pen in your hand, can you write down the name Terry, Terry, Donia, Donia. She is the Niagara Region staff person in charge of the culture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, member. So any further questions to the presenter? Well, seeing none, then I'll ask Mayor Dart for a motion.
I think you have the motion, right?
Okay.
Thanks, moving it.
All right, so I'd have a motion that the presentation on the UNESCO World Heritage designation for Niagara-on-the-Lake by David Hemmings be received for information, and that a letter of support in principle and conditional upon a nomination to Canada's tentative list to be attached to the Niagara-on-the-Lake Cultural Landscape submission in December 2016. And this letter would be signed by the chair of the Conservation Authority.
That's exactly how I meant it. Thank you.
Well written. I need a seconder. Mayor Joyner. Any further discussions to the motion? Ready for the question then? All those in favor? Well, that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hackman. Thank you, members. Now, the next item on the agenda is a notice of motion that was presented by member Davey. And the notice of motion is that the staff be directed to undertake a watershed-wide Canada 150 project involving the sugar maple trees to local schools with an upset limit of $35,000 from the OPG Ontario Power Generation Reserve Fund. Brian, would you like to address the board on the intention?
Thank you, Chair. Is the notice of motion with an intention to bring it to the December meeting ratification or later this meeting?
So, are you prepared I think, to discuss at this meeting, or do you want to bring it? We are suggesting perhaps we don't have this at the December meeting. So, maybe it's appropriate to deal with it now.
You could then, because there are some opinions. I presented, and sorry for the last minute, that's how it arrived at my desk. There's a two-page submission with your desk this morning entitled Watershed Project for Canada's 150th Anniversary. For the members of the public at large and members in the audience here today, I'll run through it in overview. I was approached by a senior citizen from Vaughan Hill, downtown, Mrs. Shirley Lazarus. She spent some time reviewing some very significant contributions that her family had made in terms of patriotism, respect for the Crown, respect for Canada. She shared with me a poem that she created for Canada's centennial year and was preparing to actually allow some alteration of wording to make it fitting for Canada's 150th. She was referred to me by Dean Allison's office, and it was a case where she was thinking of something very large on a nationwide scale. I informed her that I didn't have wherewithal to be able to bring resources in that large scale, but there may be some interest at the watershed level. As you're aware, Canada's 150th is approaching 2017. There's, I think, a need for us all to celebrate that very significant event. The Comfort Maple is a very significant symbol of our organization, in particular because of its age, 100 years and its own. Mrs. Lodge has had several conversations with me about the significance. I guess there are 10 maple trees that are native species to Canada. The silver maple apparently was the source for the creation of Maple Leaf Forever, and that when it finally collapsed of age and so on, the music stands to be created from that. As you're aware, a fundraiser through Marvens has been with regard to downlands from the Comfort Maple in terms of filling those into very impressive mementos of that occasion. I met the next day with the CEO, Colonel D'Angelo, and some biological staff. The discussion then led to a meeting the next week with a number of staff members who've done some research about sourcing trees, whether or not even Comfort Maple saplings were available for use. I guess the very limited trees as they age. And by the way, I heard a term called Samara, little helicopters. Samara is a term. But it's a very limited propagation. So staff did get several quotes on the cost of various trees. Probably a 2-gallon size container for it, 4 or 5 feet tall. And because they're very, maples are very shallow rooted, you probably noticed this year during the drought that we had this summer, quite a number that began turning leaves midsummer or even early summer. So we're suggesting that presentation led to discussion that a presentation will be made at each elementary school, secondary school, Brock University, Niagara College, and including the Baldwin and Hamilton jurisdiction, the watershed. And that in addition to the tree, that a frame plaque be created that would include a picture of the comfort maple in recognition of its importance, statements of character to NPCA, and in particular, either a colored photograph of leaves from comfort maple or crest leaves. That's yet to be determined. And that the altar to the 150 poem created by Mrs. Sherry Laja, which is attached to this to the exhibition, be included and be on display in all schools, in high schools, and college, university, for a celebration of the NPCA's contribution to Canada's 150th. The costs are estimated to be in the vicinity of $35,000. We have talked about the possibility of a number of external funders, but the offset would be that the OPG funds will be used to act as a reserve to facilitate this project. That does not discount going to external sources for additional funding, including the community foundation, including the funds that are still available from the federal government for Campus 150. Okay, and I think we'll leave it at that. This is at this time Conservation Authority, NPCA initiative, and it should be a public profile event, obviously, hopefully before June of this year or early June of this year. There's a question mark that is left with members of the foundation. The foundation is going through significant rejuvenation, attempts to maybe even re-grant, and there may be pending later some parallel use of this to also promote the re-granting and re-emergence of the foundation. But that's to be determined at a later time in consultation with this board. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Beatty. Members, I just wanted to get a comment from Peter as to the discussions we've had, and that Brian has gone through this with staff, so there is some comfort level there. And I'd like Peter to speak to that. It is a notice of motion that we may deal with today, or we may deal with at the next board meeting. So before I go to Peter, Brian, the notion of timelines that you might be looking for on a decision on this from the board.
There's already been some examination as to availability of trees, and it will be likely to have order the trees and such. The quantity will be somewhere in the 200 to 250 range in terms of numbers that's being finalized at this one time. And that probably January, at least a reservation time will be necessary.
Okay. Member Quirk has a question, but Tony, perhaps we can get Peter's comment first.
Just quickly, thank you to you, Chair. So I just want to make sure that there is an understanding that, at least from a staff perspective, we're very comfortable and prepared to follow through on this initiative. I think, given again, it's the 150th anniversary, it's a great opportunity to take advantage of this. And again, staff have been involved with discussions with Member Beatty, and we're completely on board in terms of providing that support and making that happen.
Thank you. Member Quirk?
Thank you, Chair. I was just happy to either second the motion as it stands or to move that the rules of order be discussed now. Either way, I'm happy to support this motion. I think it's a great idea. Thank you to Member Beatty for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Suggestion, I'm not clear on whether we need to do that particular process, but I'll take a couple more questions from the members, and then we'll probably we'll do that procedural piece and get the motion on the floor. So, Member DeFrucia had a question, and then Member Beatty.
On that last paragraph where it says staff and sponsorships, why don't we include industry and businesses through the Chamber of Commerce?
Okay, Brian, I think that's
The intent is, I hope it's
We shut the system off.
like I said, the intent, Mr. Bishop, is to that approached various corporate sponsors. That would lessen the burden on the OPG reserve funds. But at this point in time, until the project is given a green light in principle, it's pretty tough to go and get sponsors if you're not certain the project is going to go forward.
Okay, so we can take that as a suggestion to staff as we move, if we move the floor of the project
Just in
forward.
our, I'm sorry, Brian, just in our watershed.
Okay, we'll take that within our watershed.
Expanded to the province, but when I was thinking of, was just our watershed.
Okay, staff has made note of that, thank you. Member Beatty?
Yes, just a couple of points of clarification. One, when we say watershed, that means the entire watershed?
Yes.
So the Hamilton schools will be included?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, is it 1 tree per school or 10 trees per school?
1.
Just 1? I mean, lonely maybe.
But there are a lot of schools.
Yeah, I know. It's just that if you've been out to see the comfort maple, it's big, it's there, it's fabulous, but kind of lonely in that field. That's all. I think it should be 2 trees.
Thank you. Other members to the question? Sandy?
Thank you, Chair. So when we first talked about this, I think it was during our foundation, thank you for Member Beatty for bringing it forward. There were some action items that we directed staff to go forward with respect to costing and some of those other things. So in all fairness, I'd like to give the board an opportunity to see all that information come forward, but I want to be respectful of the timelines as well. Is this something that all the information come forward to the membership, to the board, and depending on the timelines, if in fact there is no December meeting, is it something that we voted on or ratified via electronic vote in order to satisfy some of the timelines going forward?
Brian, you have thoughts on that?
I appreciate that. I think it'll be fair to consider this a new principle, and that the final details which are being researched by staff, for example, the nature of the frames, what the cost would be of doing that, the photography, etc. And I failed to mention there is another sidebar to this. I'm taking some music lessons, and the gentleman running it is a songwriter, and he's going to look at potential melodies. So the poem that you see here could be turned into song and perhaps presented by elementary choirs, etc. in some form of occasion. But I think that would be a good approach to take this as an approval in principle on the parameters today, and that with the full costing and details presented at the January meeting.
I'll be glad to make that friendly amendment that the word changed for the motion. Is it still a notice of motion, or have we waived the rules of procedure? It's now a motion that's on the floor.
There's a suggestion that we have a motion by member Court to waive the rules of procedure so that we can entertain this motion at this meeting.
And then at the appropriate time, I'll make the friendly amendment that support in principle.
Okay. Bill, before we go to Tony?
Yeah, just a very quick comment or question whether or not the school board has been contacted. I'm only guessing that both school boards, where we have 4 school boards, this in Niagara, may well have plans for 150th celebrations. Like there may be a way to leverage this and get more, as opposed to just dictating, here's a tree, here's a picture. There may well be a way for the NPCA to work more closely with the school boards and may end up being a contribution of a tree. But I'd like to think that probably there is something special being planned by most school communities.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that under advisement and follow through. We did have inventory of celebrations that were being planned by communities, but we'll follow up on that at the school board level as well.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll assume that is part of the staff task to, as part of the report that's being suggested that will come to the next board meeting. So, member Court, I would go to your motion to waive the procedure.
Thank and I was actually questioning whether the procedure did allow for a written notice of motion at this time, but if it doesn't, I would suggest that we consider this motion at this time.
Well, let's take that approach and just to be cautious and make sure we got all the bases covered for it. So moved by Member Quirk and seconded by Member Shurton that the rules of procedure be waived to allow us to entertain this motion this morning. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Then I will put on the floor, ask Member Beatty to put your motion on the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and I'll include Councilor Naziata's point there and approval in principle as a preamble to that motion as it's worded, and subject to final review with details in the January NPCA board meeting.
Thank you. Lisa, do you have that? Members, any further discussion to that motion? We needed a second. I think it was Sandy had suggested he would say a second. Thank you. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And thank you, Member, for bringing that suggestion forward. We did have some good discussion, and staff, I think, is kind of excited about the motion. So we look forward to the January report, and your continued input with the staff to help make this move forward would be appreciated. Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder, Member Beatty, Member Maloney. Any questions to those minutes, members? Member Beatty.
On page 5, item 8.3.
The authority minutes? Or the case springs?
Sorry, the full authority.
Okay, thank you.
I made a suggestion, and I just want to make sure I captured the entire suggestion. And it's there, but I also asked that the December year end be a summary of that complete year. I don't want to lose that. I think it's important if we're going to do it quarterly, then we really should have that year end. Is that understood with the administration?
Peter?
Yeah, just so I'm clear for you, Chair, that the year-end report would be coming to the board in January. So the January would then provide a summary.
Yeah, for the previous years.
Correct.
I just want a summary at the end of the year.
Understood.
If we do it quarterly, there should be a summary at the end of the year.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, thank you for that suggestion. That would be noted as a comment to the minutes.
Just a comment on the Waynfleet maps. I received a copy. Thank you, staff. The maps are much better. Thank you.
Okay, members, any further discussion to those 2 minutes? Seeing none, I'll Member Naziata?
Yeah, I don't know, is this past meeting that these minutes reflect or a previous one about the initiation of moving away from paper, going towards the paperless agenda? I don't see it reflected in the draft minutes, but then again, maybe I'm confused that was brought up that prior.
I think it is reflected in the minutes, but it is understood that the both the electronic version and
Okay, I got it right here. Yeah, very quick.
okay,
Okay, yeah, thank
and
you.
that the paper version is still available to members if they request it.
Got it.
All right. Members, then I'll call the question on those 2 minutes. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you. And I think we have touched on business arising from the minutes. If there's any further business that's not already on this agenda, I would take it now. Seeing none, then I'll move to correspondence. And correspondence item include the letter from myself as the chair of the board to Minister of Natural Resources in response to the letter from member Cindy Forster. You've seen the letter in the correspondence. And just to follow up on that, we have had contact with member Forster Forster's office, and we believe we have scheduled a meeting with the member Forster at her Welland constituency office on Monday. We have had no response from the ministry in any written form to either of those correspondence, but I do look forward to the opportunity to speak with the member and address some of the concerns she has. Member Beattie.
At that meeting, I would hope you plan to take with you the audited statements that we do every year. I mean, I've been sitting here for a few years now, and I don't think there's any secrets of what we're doing. And we get audited fairly tightly every year. This may be a Niagara issue, but it seems kind of strange.
Yes, we will bring our audit statements for the last couple of years, and we did submit a package with our correspondence to the minister, included a package of our strategic plan and most recent audited statements as presented to funding municipalities on a regular basis. So hopefully that will be helpful to inform our discussion on Monday.
Good.
Thank you.
I wish you luck.
Member Bailey, would you have further comment?
Yes, this area has been a discussion, rather distressing, to say the least, because it's veiled in innuendo. And what concerns me is the call for forensic audit. Not being an auditor and not having ever reviewed a forensic audit, I know enough to say that forensic means something isn't right, wrongdoing, financial wrongdoing, etc. There is illusion from some people about property acquisition and so on. I would like the people who are making such allegations to be precise as to what the nature of the concern is, and I'd be most willing to share openly all transactions of this board for the 13 years that I've been involved with. It's extremely distressing. It has caused me some personal concern in terms of past year. Although I can't say that I don't know that more upset about what's happening in the American election, more upset by the slings and arrows of outrage that have been directed in our country. But I would ask that when you have discussion with member or NPP Forster, that I think her request has been for financial audits, so you can demonstrate that's clear. Not only do we have financial audits that we publish annually, public monthly or financial statements online, etc. One of the consultation authorities to do that. We're live streaming our meetings, trying to be open and transparent. The list goes on. We had a summary at our last meeting in terms of the fact that our operations have been, for the first time ever, in black in terms of our various campgrounds, facilities, etc. We've seen that 85% of our strategic plan process, which was an extremely exhaustive plan to listen to the community, the various segments of our community, as to what they like and don't like about the Conservation Authority, and we acted in all fashion at 85% after 2 years implementing that. Only 15% to go. We've established a community liaison advisory committee to listen to various factors, various voices in our community, and let them hear each other, etc. All of those point to open, transparent communication with the public at large. The slings and arrows are not deserved. I think the people throwing them should specify what target they're competing at and to basically face the consequences if their allegations are incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Beattie, I'll be sure to carry the message on Monday. Mayor Canty.
Thanks, Chair. I don't know if this is something that you would consider, but I would suggest that when you do go in for this meeting with the MPP, you bring someone in to take minutes of that meeting as well, because I think those minutes should be presented to this committee, just for purposes of clarity.
Thank you. We will do that. We have intended to bring Mr. Graham along, and perhaps we'll have a recording secretary service to come with us as well. Appreciate the suggestion. Mayor Maloney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with the sentiments of Mr. Baker's presentation. This request put the cloud over the activities of our staff as well as me personally, and that it's a front against both of these. I think that it's important for our staff as this meeting goes that the press release
we are 3 jurisdictions, Hamilton, Niagara, and Elgin. And if possible, for those representatives from the other jurisdiction, Hamilton and Elgin, be present as well, because they are part of the overall Niagara Municipality Authority. I think that people in Niagara must realize that there's more to the organization than just Niagara. So keep in mind that, again, it's an affront to me as a member of this board that these accusations be made. And certainly forensic audit is expensive, but I think it should be, I would have accusation without some, I make it without reservation, because that is the fact of what it's been made. Who we can choose to run to, whether it's super or otherwise. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Maloney. I think the sentiments I will bring to that meeting and the suggestions you've made are helpful. I think would be fair and reasonable to respond after we've had the meeting with our MPP, basically dealing with her accusations or her concerns, and then we'll follow on with a response to the other matter, and perhaps we can give you some of our legal advice on that matter in camera later this morning. All right. Thank you. So your suggestion was that members of the board from Alderman and Hamilton join us for this meeting?
If possible.
Okay. We'll take that suggestion to heart and we'll address it with our other members. Okay. Any further suggestions, members? So there is a motion, and there is also, on the positive side, a letter of thank you from Hamilton, City of Hamilton, Councilor Brenda Johnson, that you have in your agenda. And I suggested that we share this with all those involved in making the donation that's referred to here. So she would just read it for you for a second here. This is from Brenda Johnson, Ward 11. I would like to personally thank you for your donation of the beautifully framed pictures of the Inbrook Conservation Area from the NPCA. These much appreciated items have been donated to a local community fundraiser event. Because they depict the area so well, they have been very well received by the community. It's always a pleasure working together for the benefit of the community. Thank you again, and I would appreciate if you would share this to all those involved in making this generosity possible. Yours truly, Brenda Johnson, Councilor Ward 11. Pictures are fabulous, Mary. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Brenda. So members, appreciate being able to share that with you, and the goodwill expressed by our member, our Ward Councilor Brenda Johnson, is much appreciated by the board. So, with that little bit of cheery news, I ask for a motion to receive these 2 items of correspondence. Moved by Member Campion and everybody, Member Dart. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Members, I do have a few remarks, and I'll go through these as quickly as possible, but I think they're important to be said. Number 1 is that our quarterly report is issued and is online for end of 3rd quarter, and they're showing some strong results for the year to date. I was also able to attend the final public meeting of the Cave Springs plan and was pleased to see strong public endorsement for the plan and the work. The work of the committee led by Member Beattie and Member Hodgson, and also the team the staff team that was led by Mr. Brickle. They did an excellent job, and that was appreciated by the people attending that final meeting. So with our support motion today, this final report will be forwarded to the Escarpment Commission and the Ministry. But there was clear public support for the work and procedures of that committee. Also was able to attend the launch of the Lakefront Properties Master Plan in Wainfleet. Got off to a good start with the consulting team. They were leading public workshops at Wainfleet Firemen's Memorial Hall. Did I get that right, Mayor Jeffs? I was there for the afternoon session, and Mayor Jeffs was there took a prominent role in the both afternoon and evening sessions. The project is off to a good start, and thanks again to Mr. Brickle and for the organization of that project. Vice Chair Annunziata and myself, we look forward to working with Peter Graham in his role as the interim CAO. And I thank the board for your confirmation of our decision to appoint Peter this morning. Peter is a professional engineer. Engineers, we all like that professional background, with a master's of business administration and 30 years experience, with a proven track record in leadership, team building, problem solving, and achieving the desired results in both private and public sector. Peter has demonstrated a strong understanding of our focus on the balanced administration of our role as a conservation authority over the last few years as our Director of Watershed Management. We intend to prepare to launch for the search of a new CAO in January following our annual general meeting. We intend to have a recruitment strategy prepared for the board approval and the election of a recruitment committee at the January board meeting following our annual general meeting. 2017 is the final year of our strategic plan. We implemented the 2014-2017 strategic plan. We are approximately 85% through the implementation of that strategic plan. I want to take a moment here to recognize and thank our former CAO, Carmen D'Angelo, for his leadership in the implementation of that strategic plan to date. I would like to thank Carmen for modernizing the NPCA to meet the needs of the communities within its unique watershed. Together with the leadership team we assembled, we have positioned the organization to deliver quality, conservation, and regulatory programs and services, and we now do determine the level of our success through clear performance measures. I think that was part of the implementation of the new strategic plan that we wanted to be able to demonstrate to our funding municipalities. And we have established a new pattern of balance in the administration of our regulations with a solutions-based approach that respects the interests of the landowners, the farmers, and the natural resources of our watershed. So I want to thank Carmen for his leadership as CAO of the NPCA and to wish him well as the CAO of the Niagara region. The commitment of the team that Carmen has built and the commitment of the team to the mission and vision and values established by this board has been remarkable. And I look forward to finishing the implementation of our 2014-2017 strategic plan with this board. And I look forward to taking the next few steps working with Mr. Graham as the interim CAO. Members, those are my remarks for this morning. And I would like to turn the floor over to our new CAO, Mr. Graham. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's a great segue for just a few comments that I'd like to make. So I just want to, first of all, thank the Chair, our Vice Chair, and personally thank as well our previous CAO, Carmen D'Angelo, for this unique opportunity to step in as an acting CAO during this transition period. Really appreciate that opportunity. So I know closely, continue to closely work alongside our chair and the strong senior management team that we have in place here. I'm extremely confident that we can sustain the great work that's been done today. And on that note, I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Suzanne McInnes as the acting director of watershed management. I think that stepped into my previous role during this transition period as well. Great to have her on the senior management team. So welcome, Suzanne. So just to piggyback on what our chair has already stated, we're going to continue to stay focused on completing the on-view initiatives, objectives of the current strategic plan. And we want to make every effort to be ready in Q1 with the framework in terms of reference, et cetera, in place to be ready to initiate the starting process for the next strategic plan and have that ready to go for when the new CAO steps in. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Members, any questions to the remarks of myself or Mr. Graham? Seeing none, I appreciate your support, members, as we move forward.
Point of privilege.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to indicate that I have to leave. The Métis Nation is coming to Elgin to raise a flag in recognition of the WeeStreem Day, and great greetings on behalf of the NPCA.
Thank you. I understand the need to be there for it. Thank you. Members, the next item on the agenda is the project status reports. And we have 3 reports here. The watershed status report 114-16, operations status report 115-16, and the corporate services status report 116-16. Well, we would appreciate the suggestion. We would take a motion to receive all of these reports, but there are 2 others we want to include in that. There's also the tree and forest conservation bylaw status and the financial reserves update, month ending October 31st. So members, I take any questions or concerns to those, 5 reports. And seeing none, then I'll take a motion from Member Court that status reports 114, 115, 116, 117, and 118 be received for information. Seconded by Member Dart. Ready for the question? All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. And thank you, Peter and the staff, for the thoroughness of those reports. They continually produce a report that is helpful and thorough, and members are very satisfied with the formats. So, next item. There's a list of items here now for consideration. And the first one is the Long Beach Conservation Area water truck purchase or finance, the report number 119-16. And we would look for a mover and seconder to get on the floor. Member Shurton and Member Dart. And Mr. Quirk wants to speak to it, but first I'd ask for a summary of the recommendation from Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members will recall that we actually had some issues with our water treatment system out at Long Beach. And because of concerns about the algae bloom in particular and the high temperatures, that we were very concerned about our ability to maintain that system, and certainly would have had to invest very heavily and modernize the system, completely redo the water treatment system out at Long Beach. So we came to the board with a recommendation at that time to start using municipal water and having it trucked in, which is really the way that it's tending to go across the province anyway, for safety concerns and to make sure that the water is of high quality. We made that recommendation and the board supported it. So we've been trucking in water. So the report here today is really about what's the best way to do that long term. So we presented a number of options. I asked my team to review it in terms of purchasing a used truck, leasing options, new vehicle, looking at standard manual or automatic operations, and then whether we could finance it or purchase it outright. We have in our budget tonight $80,000 that's already approved for this particular purchase. As you can see, the recommendation actually calls for spending another $19,000 plus HST. So we've asked that actually come out of the vehicle reserve. It says in the report that that would leave $190,000 in. There's actually $270,000 in that vehicle reserve. So we would ask that the additional $12,000 or $13,000 comes from that report. The HST We do get at least 78% of that, maybe 100% of that back. And then if you look at it from a financing option, that would actually cost an extra $72,000 if we were to finance it. We look at about 400 of those per year at Long Beach. If we were to do it, go with a third-party contractor, we'd be looking, the cost would be about $110 per load, and that would work out to over $40,000 per year. Leasing a vehicle, as we've done temporarily, comes out to $70 per load. And then our option right now is we have the ability to purchase the water from Dunville at $35 a load plus the cost. And when we factored it in, that came out to an amount even lower than the lease option, and it works out to about $25,000 a year to deliver the water to Long Beach. So that's our recommendation, is that we go forward with that purchase. It's really a relatively small amount that we're asking to take from the vehicle reserve, which is in a strong position already.
Thank you. Mr. Brickell, I have questions from Member Quirk and Member Hodgson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Mark. I'm just trying to understand the numbers, the numbers with respect to our cost for labor and the actual load of water and gas to operate this. And do you have the overall numbers on our cost per load using your own vehicle versus the cost for having it shipped in? And the other thing I'm just asking while I have before is just the size of this truck. Is it a 3,300 or 5,000 gallon tank? I don't see it. I apologize if I missed it.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe it's a 5,000 gallon tank.
And what is the size of our cistern or our holding cistern at the?
10,000. But we're actually doubling that this year at Long Beach. As you know, water reliability and electrical reliability are the keys to our campgrounds and all of our operations. So we have been challenged on the water reliability side, and both of these, that move of adding additional capacity at the park, plus combined with having our own truck, greatly improve the water reliability at Long Beach.
So I just need confirmation that the cost plus labor plus gas plus the water is less than what the private sector is charging us right now.
Significantly less than what the private sector costs, and even less than what it costs when we lease the vehicle to do the same. These vehicles, just so you know, will last easily 20 years plus. They can actually do 1 million kilometers plus, and we would expect that. The most we will do in 20 years will be about 300,000 kilometers.
What is the distance from the filling station to the park?
I'm sorry I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Hodgson.
Thank you to you too, Mark. Also, the business case I can appreciate, and the recommendation I appreciate. You're suggesting that we would basically fund this 100% out of the capital reserve. It looks like that leaves us with $170,000. So are we comfortable with that balance? And is there any other, or were there any other vehicle purchases entertained for this year that haven't been paid? I just want to know where we're left.
Yep. Thank you for the question. First of all, there's actually 80,000 that's actually allocated, already authorized in the 2016 budget. So we're actually already authorized. There's an additional $270,000 in the vehicle reserve. So we're only accessing 19,000, sorry, from that account, which would still leave 251,000 in. So it's in a very strong position. We have no concerns about that. I know over the last few years we've been really good at getting the right vehicles and right equipment into our central workshops and our campgrounds. And then for the most part, we've actually gone to leasing for most of our trucks.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, so the report over on the page 2, through. Because I was just adding the 80,000 for 190, but what you're saying is the 190 is actually 270.
That is 270.
Member B.
Yes, through you to Mark, what is the licensing requirement for this truck?
Sorry, DZ license.
We have to have a DZ, do we have the employees on staff that have DZs, or?
Yes.
Have to train some people?
Yes, we've already trained a number of them. By going with an automatic vehicle, it will make it a lot easier for us as well to have others trained to be able to use this truck.
Does this vehicle have air brakes?
I do not know that. I do not think so.
I remember something from my years of driving trucks, that it was an air brake.
I don't think this one has air brakes.
All right. Member Casper says.
Through the chair, Mark, have you examined the cost of controlling a freshwater well on site?
We have not.
That may be one option you want to consider. Also, I do know that there are water treatment systems out there to handle an algae bloom contaminated water. And has that been examined?
That has been examined, and that the cost of those refurbishments would be somewhere between $75,000 and $125,000 to bring it to that.
And that would be
that level.
Right.
We still, I guess we could do that. We prefer now to bring in municipal water though for water.
My fear is that we're trying to expand the capacity of our parks, and you may find you're in a situation where we're requiring more water, and someone may come up with the idea down the road that maybe we should install a freshwater system. I mean, the freshwater systems are out there that have been tweaked to handle the algae blooms. We didn't have an algae bloom make it down to along each area this year, so there was some comfort there, but I would like to also examine that aspect. And thirdly, if there was a possibility to just go to public tender to support some of our local water handling contractors to bring water in as opposed to us going against their line. Thank you.
So Mark, the suggestion of going to public tender was entertained or discussed in the report?
We've certainly gone to public tender for the vehicle. With respect to we've done the calculation, and that is that it costs us $110 per load if you bring it in through a third-party contractor. It costs us less. It costs us about $50 to $60 a load when we bring it in ourselves.
But I feel that if you were to go to a tender with the number of water haulers, they may come down from 110 to something more realistic, something more budgetable. If they were guaranteed so many loads, they may come down to $75, which starts looking attractive again. I just don't like going up against the small guys trying to help them out by taking away business from them. So if there's an opportunity, let's at least explore it.
All right. Members, Member Annunziata, please.
Quick question with respect to...
Microphone, please.
Sorry. With respect to page, under our permit fees, when looking at 2017 planning and regulation fees, just a quick question.
Excuse me for a moment. Member Annunziata, we'd like to just finish with the Long Beach issue first.
Oh, do we move these on block or?
No, these are going to be treated individually, items for consideration.
All right, then I'll wait.
We did do the status reports in block, but these we'll do one at a time.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion on the floor, moved by Member Shurkin and Member Clark, is that report 119 be received for information. Does the NPCA Board of Directors authorize staff to purchase a new 2017 International Workstar automatic DZ truck from Archer Trucking in Welland for hauling potable water to Long Beach Conservation Area during the operating season, as per option 8, with monies coming from the vehicle and equipment reserve accounts. Members, you've heard suggestions and questions from a discussion from the board. Are you ready for the question on that motion that is on the floor? Member Beatty.
I prefer to table it until we get the information that James asked for.
So that's a motion to defer.
So moved.
Motion to defer to the next board meeting. Do I have a seconder?
Chair, sorry, just
James?
point of order.
Yes.
Deferral. With respect to timing, I know there's usually a long lead item on some of these trucks. Is there a delivery date contemplated that would be an issue if we decided to go with this?
Mark? Yeah, was that?
Pushes it. We have to have the truck in place for March, so.
So a board decision in January would allow us to have the truck in place in March. I think that's the question.
We would have to confirm that, but obviously we would want to give them as much notice as possible.
Okay, thank you. So members, I'll call the question on the deferral to the January board meeting. All those in favor? Well, that's virtually unanimous, so let's match it. Not quite unanimous, those opposed, my apologies, one opposed. Thank you. So noted, yes. So members, that issue is deferred to the next board meeting in January. Thank you. Mark, do you have any concerns or further comments on it?
I'm not sure how I can get information about what potential benefits we would get out of going, seeking private contractors to haul, without actually going through the process of doing it. So I don't know how to give you an estimate of that.
Good suggestion. So what are the questions you have on your list that are to be addressed so that we can make a decision in January at this point?
Well, I think the primary one was that. The second one has to do with long-term development of the park, which again, we do have plans for that, and we bring that forward with other, as we actually move forward in the development of the park. So we can get you more information about it. We can get you a costing of what it would do to fully upgrade the water treatment system and be able to treat our water on site. That we've done some preliminary scoping, and you know that it's in the 75 to 125 range to get it to where we would want it to be. But I think the biggest one that impacts the timing of this report is getting a costing on what the benefit would be of going through third-party contractors, and that I don't know how to provide you with that information.
Okay, so we have a little concern about how to be able to deal with this in January. Is there an option to, because I think the question was asked of the private sector to provide us in terms of service.
Could we simply phone up the local contractors at 6 or 7 and simply say, we'd like to get a rate on possibly 1,000 loads over the course of the summer, what haulage rate would you sign us to?
All right, members, Casper, I think it was your suggestion that drove the deferral. So I'll ask Peter if we can pursue some inquiries at the very least and see what we can have ready for January board meeting. Peter, okay. I have a couple other members that want to discuss the motion that we've already deferred. Member Dart and Member Beatty, if you can be brief, please.
It wasn't to debate it. It was just, I thought part of the comment was to investigate a well or another type of source.
Yeah, that could be another question we can have addressed. I'm worried about, concerned about groundwater conditions you might get from a well in that neighborhood, because I do remember some history around that. But we can have that answer for you. Member Beatty, these are questions to be addressed in for January.
Yeah, and just what if Mr. Berkeley finds out that puts the March delivery date in jeopardy, communicate by email, go act on this, if it's going to get risen.
Okay, Mark, if you could confirm how that All right, members, I think Mark has a comprehensive list of items to be addressed for that January board meeting. I keep saying the January board meeting. All right, members, then with that, we'll move on to the next item of business. And Member Annunziata, you had some questions regarding the planning and regulation fees. Would you be prepared to put the motion on the floor and then address them?
I'll do that item.
Member Annunziata has moved it, seconded by Member Maloney. And to the motion, Member Annunziata will give you the floor.
Thank you, Mayor.
And with the microphone, please.
So,
You wouldn't know he's on stage.
I'll use the headset or whatever, right? Okay, so, under the schedule of fees, I just need a quick clarification here. Now, when we talk about, so it looks like there's some duplication, but one fee schedule is for more extensive work, another fee schedule is for less work. Do we have definitive language within our permit fee schedule so there's no ambiguity? I mean, I hate to see someone from the public come forward thinking that it's minor work, but in essence it's really major work. So for example, shoreline, new replacement shoreline protection walls as opposed to shoreline maintenance of a wall and barrier. The difference is almost $1,500. So as far as defining that, and again, with dams, new replacement and major maintenance as opposed to dams and just maintenance, I can only see that there may be a problem with the public coming forward and suggesting, well, no, it's not major, it's just regular maintenance, so therefore I should not pay the lower permit fee. And I mean, we have definitive language to eliminate that ambiguity, just so there's no confusion with anyone coming forward.
Yes, through you, Chair. I'm going to direct it over to Suzanne McCannis, who is the author of but I could follow up with that as well, but I'll pass it over to Suzanne.
Thank you for that question. In practice, I hear what you're saying about defining it definitively, and in practice, major applications are ones that require a technical study, and minor are ones that do not. And we've outlined that in the planning stuff. You're right, we could clarify that in the notes on the permit. The other thing to mention is that we have a pre-consultation process for permits, much like the planning process, where we can sort out those details with the applicant and confirm the appropriate fee.
All right, thank you for that. And again, I think it's going to have an effect as far as, not creating anxiety when people come forward and try to convince us that, well, it's just minor in nature, and wanting to pay the lower fee, when in essence it is something that is major, and they're going to have to, like your point, take a technical opinion. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think those notes, those clarifications are noted by staff, and I look forward to seeing those ideas implemented as best you can. Members, are there any other questions to this motion? Member Kaspersets.
Thank you, Chair. To Suzanne. Suzanne, I've reviewed your Schedule A to the Grand River Conservation Authority, and I find some of our fees to be very, very low. For instance, on the plan of subdivision, the GCRE are charging over $2,000 plus an acreage fee, and you're charging $570. And I just wonder if there's been a comparison to other conservation authorities with respect to the fee schedules, because it just seems to be significantly low.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, we did a review of our fees last year, a very comprehensive review, and we compared them to our municipal partners and to conservation authorities adjacent to us. And it's a tough thing to compare because each conservation authority has a different take on how much their fees will, how much cost recovery there will be for fees. The other challenge that we had is that we didn't want to be charging fees that were higher than our municipal partners. And we will be conducting a review in 2017, more detailed review, where we can take a closer look at that. I think the cost recovery in our previous report last year was about 40% on the planning. And like I say, we're trying to find that balance, but the Grand River Conservation Authority has directed staff to collect 100% cost recovery. And their municipalities also have higher costs associated with the development in those areas. So if you were to compare planning fees, municipal planning fees within the Grand River watershed, they would be very different than what you would see here in Niagara. So we tried our best to find a balance between what other CAs are charging, what our municipalities are charging, and not charging more for our effort, because our work is one component of what the municipal fee would be. So I hear what you're saying, and we can take a closer look at it when we review it in 2017.
Thank you. Thank you. Peter, did you want to add?
Just one other comment I wanted to make on that. Just knowing that the level of detail that staff went through in their review a year ago on the fees was very, very comprehensive. And looking at other CAs or municipal reps, etc. And it was all with a map. So we really got down to the premise of saying, okay, we know how much staff time goes into basically processing these applications, and that was the baseline that we used. And it came up with a reasonable cost recovery factor, where then it resulted in some significant changes, some of them up, some of them down. And then it allowed us, again, a 2-year period now at the end of this coming year, we'll do another extensive review and say, okay, how did that pan out based on the amount of time that we have? Just one other point I'd like to make with the City View development tracking system that we've implemented, that now is going to give us a lot more robust, detailed, reliable information that we can use. Then we go back and say just how much time have we been spending on these, and adjust our fees accordingly in the future. So, thanks for the question.
Members, are you satisfied? Member Joyner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't sure if I was going to get any kind of rationale or ask for any kind of rationale, but I was just kind of looking at the plan of subdivision condominium, and I'm just trying to get clarity based on what Member Casper said there a second ago. And I just looked at the less than 100 lots, 570, and more than 100 lots, 2770. I see some kind of a distance there, and I'm not sure how to rationalize that in my own head. And I'm trying to get the answers and the opinion of both, Mr. Graham and Ms. McKinnon too as well back there. I guess I could be maybe more satisfied if it was said less than 50 lots, 570, more than 50 lots, 2770. I see there being something substantial there, and most subdivisions are over 100 lots. I understand there's not that many subdivisions that are less than 100 that I know of. But again, I'm just trying to rationalize that and listen to staff as to why. I hear them when they say they've done a comprehensive review of this. But I know that in my municipality, we will be looking at our fees too as well, because our fees are very low as well. And there is a small thing called growth coming our way that we have to be able to get our heads wrapped around. So potentially fees may have to change in my municipality. So I just want to make sure that, maybe for today these fees are okay, but we may have to revisit this. So I guess my question is, when is the next time that we will revisit this?
Peter, please.
I think it's as stated in the report as well, that we did the extensive review a year ago that we said every 2 years. So at the end of this coming year, we'll do another extensive review as we move into 2018. It'll be adjusted again. So, but very, very good points, and I appreciate the comments.
And like you said, Mr. Graham, we do have a tool in our city view, that now we'll be able to have a better gauge and understanding what is the actual time we're spending on these applications. So I think that's a good answer.
Okay, thank you, members. Member Casper says, did you have a further question?
Fine.
All right. Okay, members, we have a motion on the floor moved by Member Annunziata and Member Maloney. You ready for the question? All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next item, one of the more rewarding motions after many years of work. The Case Springs Management Plan Approval and Actions Report 121. I look to members Hodgson and Beatty for the motion. And ask Mr. Burkle if you could take a couple minutes to speak to this report. I do appreciate the substantial amount of work and public engagement that's been involved in getting us to this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, 2.5 years we've been at it, and it is nice to reach this point. The executive summary that is in your package, I think, really provides a really wonderful summary. It's visual. It captures all the key details and information quite succinctly. This document is backed up by 3 other planning documents that are required through the Niagara Escarpment Parks and Open Space System Planning Manual. There's a charter, a background report, and the actual management plan. Those reports are backed up by 3 very large studies: a cultural heritage study, a natural heritage study, and a water resource study, as well as some other informal studies. On behalf of the staff who worked on this, I want to thank the board because you gave us permission to lead it as a staff group and to work across functions, which proved to be a really rewarding experience where we got to tap into the vast expertise and areas of specialization of numerous staff members. I would say that at least half of the staff at NPCA has touched this project at one time or another. And certainly we would want to give, I don't even want to name them, but I do think we need to certainly acknowledge Kim Folek, who had to do a full 12-month study, Jamie Campbell, who had to do a full 12-month study, and then Carrie Royer, who was instrumental in supporting the public engagement, as was Michael Wheels as well. And it was really a great experience to work. So we want to express our appreciation to the steering committee, the chairs of the steering committee, Hodgson and Beatty, who were fabulous. They guided the project so well, and more importantly, they said take the time to get it right, because there's no question. Probably 6 months ago, we were feeling the pressure to get it done, and they said, make sure that you just finish it off really well. I think that the executive summary honors the work that has been done. We would express our appreciation to the steering committee, to the technical advisory committee that supported the project, to all of the external consultants who filled in the gaps, to the volunteers who worked on it, and in particular to the public who supported this project from day one, attending numerous open houses, workshops, and indeed the last one was actually held on November 8th, which, turns out there was something else going on that day that was really big, and yet 70 people came out to the public open house to hear about the project and gave us numerous rounds of applause for the work that's been done. It's been a really rewarding experience, and we look forward to moving it on to the next level for the Niagara Escarpment Commission to give its endorsement and for MNRF to ultimately approve the project so that we can get on with actually implementing the vision for Case Springs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burkle, and just want to add that my support for appreciation for the work the team had done. That certainly was well received at that meeting of 70 people. Members, do you have any further comments to the motion that's on the floor from members Hodgson and Beatty? Mayor Maloney, please.
Just the financial implications of the report. It's anticipated that the
cost of implementing the recommendation of $2.6 million. Do we have, perhaps it's premature, do we have any idea over what period of time and what may be anticipated? Agreed, Mark, very, very well received by the public, and just inquiring as to the next stage, when we expect the report to be in fact implemented, and we have the cost, but those figures, I guess people can't say whether they're accurate or whether they in fact additional costs that it takes a longer period of time. But when are we anticipating to make implement, at least get started? Is there a plan, so much a year, or whatever? Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate the question toward implementation. Peter, how would you like to address that?
I would just pass it on to Mark.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. One of the very next steps is to actually formalize the implementation plan that goes with this. Obviously, we have to get the plan approved by NEC and MNRF. We anticipate that all of these, that the total plan will be implemented within about a 5-year period. We don't anticipate having any huge problems achieving that. Obviously, there's going to be a process by which we get that approved through the board, but I would think that a 5-year to no more than 7-year timeline would be quite reasonable for the full implementation of the elements in here, but it will be documented in an actual implementation plan. In terms of the costing, we've been pretty rigorous in developing those estimates, taking into account just about everything that can be taken into account. And we're confident that those numbers will certainly be good through that time frame.
Thank you.
Just a question on 5 to 7 years, $2.7 million. Will we be considering this with our budget for 2017, putting money away or whatever, reserve it's all over?
So the question is, do we have anything in 2017 budget at this point to cover the initiation of this work? I say centralized budget chair committee. Member Quirk saying no at this point. I think it's probably because of the time and the levels of approvals that yet to be achieved before we can put realistic numbers into 2017. And that's, I think, where we stand at this point. Peter, do you have any further clarification for that?
No, just to reiterate what you said, I think in terms of putting a work plan or implementation plan together, that'll come along with the dollars that would need to be spent over that time frame. But in terms of 2017, my understanding that there's nothing in the budget.
Okay. I have questions from members Beatty, Quirk, and Beatty.
Thank you. Accommodations to the co-chairs and to the staff for this, and in particular for very impressive supporting documents. Just a question. EPAS basically sets the rules of engagement in terms of this process, very, very vigorous, etc. Do you first make a presentation through them to gain their support approval before going to NEC? Or do you simply just follow the manual and go directly to NEC?
Mark, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think we will take it to NEPOS. I do serve on the NEPOS council, so I would envision that we would take it to NEPOS, but in terms of formal requirements, it actually goes on to the Niagara Escarpment Commission. We would look to do a presentation to NEPOS at their next meeting. As well, we have a full presentation prepared for the Niagara Escarpment Commission as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And something to explore, not necessarily part of our activity, but perhaps National Geographic could be approached because Member Patricia has mentioned several times the possibility of a subterranean lake, too narrow crevice for human being to access at this point in time. But maybe National Geographic may have some technological wizardry that would allow us to explore that further, that or some other organization to do so. And I guess, not be the same thing. I think we have a study actually going underway with the University of Guelph with the possibility of a subterranean river from Lake Erie to the Congo Plains and Lake Ontario. Whether that would be the water source for this as well. So maybe contact Jamie, find out what's happening with that particular study to see if it overlaps. But we'll be curious to determine whether or not there is a that subterranean that might account for the temperature moderation that do happen inside the case. But again, accommodation job well done.
Thank you. Mark, are you able to address that question? I think we heard some pretty good answers to that during the presentation.
So, the long and short of it is, based on James' assessment, it's highly unlikely that there's an underground body of water there. There's nothing that supports that tracking. Having said that, we have a commitment to maintain to a monitoring plan that will continue to look for those opportunities, to look for partnerships to explore that through National Geographic or others. We're quite happy to do that. We want to prepare a full documentary on the property at some point. Because why we've studied this property more than anyone else. We want to make sure that it gets captured. We're looking at partners like Niagara College and Brock University to assist us with those kind of ventures. But yes, we will continue to look for caves and openings that we can explore further, and we will be continuing to monitor the water activity and look for partners who will help us to even better understand those features. But to date, we have no reason to believe that there is an underground lake there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members Quirk and Beatty.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I want to say thank you to the committee and staff for what they did. I did have the opportunity to attend a couple of the WeeStream meetings, and most recently the final reveal last week before. And just want to say what a fantastic document is. To Member Maloney's comments on the budget aspects of this, I think once we adopt this and put it forward as part of our planning process, once it's approved by the other agencies, the MNR and the NEC, we will start including it into our capital requests. And I've also mentioned to staff that we should be looking at a comprehensive plan on how we want to fund some of these large scale projects we have, most notably a Glen and allocation rings and some of the works that need to be done in our campgrounds. So I'm hoping that we'll have a more robust discussion about our capital needs going into the 2018 budget and how we can best fund those.
Thank you. Staff notes those comments and appreciate it. Member Beatty.
Thank you, Chair. Not really a question. More or less a comment. Page, if you don't read anything in this book, read page 7. It's an interesting note. Also, I would call your attention to, first of all, let me say that a lot of work, we have a great staff. They put in blood, sweat, and tears and everything else in this thing. We went to the public. You talk about open and transparent. I think we did tremendous due diligence in going to the public over and over and listening to the public and incorporating the public's ideas in this plan. Also, I would call your attention to page 13. Going to the NEC, going to NEPOS, this is key. If we don't get that change, we're in trouble. It's just not going to happen without that change. So we need the change in designation. We need the NEC to endorse and the ministry to approve. So we've got a great study, we've got a great document, but it's not over until somebody sings it. So that's my comment there. The other one was on funding, and it's my understanding that trillion, that CAs are now eligible for trillion grants. For a while there, I think CAs were taken out, and now it's my understanding that CAs are being put back in. So I think we should check that out. And I had a note way back in my paper, and I brought it forward just as we were starting this process and the words were changing, I remember Debbie Zimmerman making the comment that you really should, once you get this report approved, you really should go to the provincial government because there's got to be heritage money available. I think that we should also make that note, and I would even suggest contacting Debbie and seeing if she'll volunteer for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, with those comments and those notes, I would, I think for the benefit of the viewing public, I'll read the motion and then call the question. It was moved by Member Hodgson and seconded by Member Beattie that report number 12116 be received for information, that the draft Cave Springs Management Plan be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted upon final approval from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. That the CAO be authorized to submit the draft Cave Springs Management Plan to the Niagara Escarpment Commission for review and endorsement, and then to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry for final approval. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to call the question on this project. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, and congratulations to staff and to the co-chairs of this committee, members Beattie and Hodgson, for a job well done. Let's hope we get an answer within a reasonable time, and perhaps we'll be putting money into the project for 2018 budget. Thank you. Members, the next item on the agenda is the draft schedule for 2017. Moved by member, questions? Okay, before we put the motion on the floor, there's a couple of questions I see. So, member Quirk?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to see if there was any appetite on behalf of the authority to take the 9:30 option, where there's an option rather than the 6:30 evening meeting options. My preference is to do it during the day, but I don't know anyone else on the authority for this.
Members, you'll see on the agenda we have a number of dates where the suggestion is that 9:30 is available. I think Lisa has done a pretty thorough job of making sure it doesn't conflict with regional council committee weeks for those members that are also serve on regional council. So member Quirk has offered that suggestion. I have a couple of other points. Member Maloney, then Casper Setz, and then me.
I would just like to second Quirk's recommendation.
Okay. We have seconded. I think what everybody else is speaking to. Yeah, we have a third and fourth. Member Joyner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in full agreement too as well, but I think, like, for instance, March 22nd is at 6:30. I would take that to mean that Lisa has checked in to see that that is a regional council committee meeting, and therefore that's why she's moving to the 6:30. Is that true? Okay, so I mean, like, so are we asking that we just make them all 9:30? Is that what we're asking?
Take the option.
Yes, we're suggesting that they all be 9:30 Wednesday meetings.
When the option 29th.
I see.
So to clarify member Quirk's motion, it is to adopt all the options presented on that recommendation.
Sure.
Fair, Tony?
Sorry, my point was much to what Member Joyner is suggesting. On the days where it's a 6:30, that's after a committee day, or on the same day as a committee day. So those of us who spend all day at the regional headquarters and then come here at 6:30 becomes a very long day. So my preference is to do it the following week at 9:30 and take them all 9:30 morning meetings.
So members, that means adopting the date and the time option on the schedule. You ready for the vote? Member Beattie?
Just, first of all, I support the motion. I just want to clarify something with respect to December. At August, no meeting, lovely. But December, and I think you alluded to no meeting this December?
That's subject to the next motion.
Okay. I just don't want to get into that area of no meeting in December. then January is like 6 hours long. Been on boards where that happens, where, oh, we'll skip December, and in January, you're here for 2 days. I would prefer the meeting in December and stick to the schedule. Some of these meetings run long enough, and I'm extending this one by thinking, but if it's going to mean that I'm in here for 3 hours in December rather than 6 hours in January, I prefer to do it in December. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Member B. The motion will include the tentative December 20th date for 2017. So the motion would not exclude it, leaves it as tentative. Something to be decided probably in October, November of next year. Okay, so members with that understanding, I'll call the question on the...
Just one other thing.
Yes.
You say tentative, could we have a tentative date? But
Yeah, this tentative December 20th is tentative. It's awfully close to Christmas, but we may adjust. Member Delegates, please.
Yeah, and I know that would be at the call of the chair. Now, we don't need to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting. I want to make sure that there's enough substance for it, because quite frankly, December's very busy. I'd rather not have a meeting, but I agree with my fellow member here saying, we don't want to have a crazy January meeting, so hopefully we can spread things out evenly so that when we make that call, we're not going to have a meeting just for the sake of a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, and staff has taken that. You know with that. Sir? Okay, members, may I call the question? All those in favor? That carries, and then we have adopted the agenda for 2017. Members, just with all those comments in mind, the next item is regarding cancellation of December. But I would suggest that we do our in-camera business and then rise and see if there's any need for, and decide after our in-camera business if there's any need for a December meeting. So I'd ask then for a motion to go in camera, that the full authority meeting move to a closed session to discuss confidential matter of advice identifying individuals and to receive verbal status update on the violations report. Moved by Council Member Quirk and seconded Member Dart. All those in favor? That's carried. We'll take about 5 minutes to clear the room.